Certainly as a chiropractor, a very common reason for patients to seek out services here is spine-related pain, neck region being a big one, headaches, vertigo type issues. And with that said, I think the NecksLevel has been awesome because that's such a huge percentage of the patient population that I see. I feel like the neck and the cervical spine is oftentimes, it's easy to get lost on, well, what's a good exercise for the neck, right? We can think shoulder, low back, T-spine, hips, knees, and you have a huge catalog menu of exercises to pull from. But I think a problem in clinical practice is we look at the neck like, what do we do? And the NecksLevel device becomes something that's awesome because I think it helps problem solve that, where it's like, hey, we have a piece of equipment now can use easily, that's not cumbersome, it's not awkward, and offers the first set of exercises through lateral resistance, through rotational resistance, through flexion and extension that can target the cervical spine musculature really well and help address some of those deeper underlying issues behind why pain conditions develop. So the patient feedback I've been receiving in response to their experience with the NecksLevel device has been, I think they look at it and they underestimate it, right? They look at it and they think, what type of resistance am I going to meet with this? Or what type of challenge am I going to meet with this? So I think they're surprised, pleasantly surprised by the unique challenge that it offers. I think they're pleasantly been surprised by the relief that it offers, not only in that short window after treatment, but as we work on it consistently and they're able to build, we're seeing longer periods of time symptom relief. I think there's definitely an impact that's undeniable for them. Clearly that this has been a huge asset, not only to the office, but obviously for them personally. We're like, hey, this is definitely addressing something that was challenging to address without the NecksLevel device previously. I've certainly had colleagues of mine, guys I went through school with, that have reached out to me with some curiosity about the NecksLevel device. What do I think about it? What type of things am I seeing? I know we've talked about this relative to even kind of comparing to the Iron Neck and some other devices out there on the market. And I think the comfort level of it, the utility of it with the varying level of resistances and the diversity of the exercise you can perform, I can't compare it to anything. I actually have a patient a year and a half ago bought an Iron Neck for home use. And honestly, his first time on the NecksLevel, he was like, I like this thing much better. He was pleasantly surprised by it because, again, kind of underestimated it in terms of what it might be able to do to kind of compare it. His point of reference comparison was the Iron Neck. So I would say definitely if you're interested in the product, reach out to Scott. I know you're offering, some kind of like free trials or rentals, stuff like that. Tell you this though, once you use it, the difference that you feel as a clinician and your patients feel, it's like you're going to see it as an invaluable asset to improving clinical outcomes for patients. Honestly, dude, seriously, I've struggled in practice sometimes, for me, when I was mentioning kind of coming up with exercises for the neck, it's like, I look at the neck almost like an extremity, right? In terms of its function. And, we got a lot of ranges of motion that we're kind of responsible for and need to have some control over. And it's like, you just kind of get stumped. I know I would integrate in DNS exercises to hit the deep neck flexors and things like that, but applying resistance. And I wasn't exactly sold on the Iron Neck. I didn't want to go that route. And then sometimes I would use bands or just isometrics, rig them up differently. And that gets to be uncomfortable on patients. If they've got an elastic band and it's pulling on their hair, you try to give them a towel to give it a little bit of a cushion. It's just, sometimes I don't want to hassle with that. But this has been huge for me because it's easy to apply. Got people on the table. You don't have to do a ton of setup. I mean, literally your only setup change is moving the band. It's as simple as it gets. And it's very easy to scale to patients' abilities. So like you said, if we're working rotation, the degree at which you slide the board, for some eccentric overload. It's like, I've read stuff and I appreciate, I think to be good in therapy, it's like, I think you need to be well-versed in strength training methods, the value of eccentrics or time under tension and variable resistances and things like that. And I think when you're able to offer that in one device, you can hit on a lot of muscular qualities that's challenging to in other settings. So for me, it's been huge because it takes, not necessarily in a bad way, but it takes a lot of clouded thinking out of my head, where it's like, hey, got this list of exercises we can work with. And just like with most people that come with back pain or hip pain, probably 80% of those patients you're using very similar exercises for. Like, hey, we're going to have to work hip hinge, we're going to have to work squat pattern or lunge pattern. Like, we know the patterns we want to work with the neck, but how do we increase the challenge for somebody? And that's what I love about this, because then there's less of that getting lost. Like, I don't know what to do to keep driving this person in the right direction, especially when and you value exercise as a big part of outcomes. If they're already kind of uncomfortable with neck pain, right? And when they're on my table and I can just basically have them laying there with this thing under their neck, they love it, because it's like seemingly less effort on there. Like, oh, wait, I don't have to have you stand up and come back here and I'm setting up a band and all this stuff. It's like they get to kind of exercise while being relatively comfortable on the table. And there's just the reality, I think, with the patient demographic, there are just some people that they see barriers to exercise and they're like, no. It's like, no, if I can make exercise a more comfortable or pleasant experience for you, then awesome. That's all I care about. You may not have like the drive of a higher level, post-surgical, or an athlete sometimes you get to work with, or you throw anything at them and they're ready to go. There's just reality. Some patients I come in with, like, if I can have them doing an exercise lying down and they feel better, it's like a huge win for them. So it enables me to touch in demographics that sometimes it's hard to with, I should say, I guess, other exercise interventions.
So it's the human condition, man. Sometimes people don't want to move.
It's like not everybody comes in here is like super driven to want to get better. Like, I want to help you get better. I'm trying to promote exercise, help you feel a difference, whether it's like 1 or 2 home exercises you're going home with. But if they can kind of catch on how some of that's going to help them, that's a win for me. And I think that's what's made this device for some of my patients a huge addition, is they're like more willing to do this than if I have to, like I said, bring them back here, right? There's less resistance to it. It's like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. Because they get the lay there. They're like, sure, go ahead. And it helps them feel better. I'm like, perfect.